Welcome back to another episode of Irons Overlands. I'm your host, Sean, and with me, as always, is Jake. Today, we have a fun one for you. We are going to talk about our dream vehicle, also a fun vehicle, and a weird vehicle that just like a guilty pleasure that we always wanted to take. So, Jake, what is your dream vehicle you would like to have if you had money was not an option?
Man, that's such a hard question to be honest with you because it changes consistently with which vehicle I own or how everybody's got those new and improved vehicles at all the Overland Expos and everything that you just see. Obviously right now I've got my Toyota Tundra, so I think one of my dreams would be to have a brand new one, and build it out with whatever spec I want. But I honestly think that a dream vehicle, if money wasn't an option, would probably be an ambulance build. Like you turn into a 4x4 ambulance, or you buy one that already is 4x4 and just build out the whole back into a camper and possibly have some kind of like deck system up on top. I mean, I think that'd be a really cool vehicle, and it's larger than a van, but it's not a full-size camper, so you can still take it on some of the trails and everything. But I don't know why that's always kind of piqued my interest to have an ambulance build.
That's one of my guilty pleasure builds that I want to do, actually.
I don't think that's a guilty pleasure. Okay. That's not like an embarrassing one to want.
I guess not. I thought it'd be cool, like you said, some like a deck system on top, get some AstroTurf and like some little bamboo planking to put on top there, have a nice little deck and some solar panels on top.
I've seen some really cool builds, and I really am tempted all the time. I mean, there's ambulance sell for pretty cheap, but it's the fact of actually either converting them to 4x4 or tearing through everything. But there's like one drawback for me is that you and I ride in the back of an ambulance and we see how dirty they get and the calls that come in. And it's like, oh, do I think I could go and camp and sleep and live out of that? And
I got it. I gut it and then go through it peroxide and bleach.
I don't think there's any amount of bleach in the world that can take away some of the stuff that have been in those.
That thing would be down to aluminum studs.
I think that's my only holdup.
Yeah. Speaking of which, of ambulances, I actually saw one the other day. It's newer, but since we know what they look like, I'll try to explain the best for our audience here if they don't know. Some ambulances have like multiple cabinets on the outside, and behind the passenger door there's another cabinet, usually where we throw our jump bags, our Lucas device, which is our CPR compression thing. I'm in the field and I'm calling it a thing. It's a mechanical compression, but it's just, anyways, this whole cabinet is our like gear cabinet for everything to grab from the outside when we show up on calls. But this new style ambulance, the door to get actually inside the ambulance is right there, so you get more room to where that side bench seat would be. And I'm like, oh, that would be actually really awesome for a camping vehicle, because then you're not wasting any space in that cabinet there. You can walk in right there and you have more room all the way to the back of the ambulance.
I think there's so many cool options they have, man. I think they're like unlimited. Like, if you're creative enough, they're just a blank canvas with unlimited options.
Oh yeah, if you can gut it all the way down, you have a pretty much a blank, good square living area to do whatever you want. Like you said, a blank campus.
Right. That would be so cool. So what would be your dream vehicle then?
So, I thought about this a lot, actually. I mean, but honestly, and now that it just came out, I really think I want the new 2023 Chevy Colorado ZR2. I mean, it sounds weird. It's a basic vehicle, but you know what? It's a crew cab for my daily driving, for whenever I want to have kids in the future and stuff. It can fit a car seat in the back. I mean, it's a proven off-road base. The new motor seems pretty reliable. I mean, they're putting in their new Silverados. It's a little 2.7 liter turbo Ecotec motor. I mean, with their tune for it, puts out 310 horsepower and 430 pounds of torque. So rock climbing or anything like that is just great. So yeah, that's that's me. I mean, I know it's a basic vehicle, but it I mean, it serves what I kind of want to do, everyday purpose, but it's more, it's narrower, so I can hit more trails than what my current Silverado can do.
I think it's not a like basic because I mean I honestly could say like I said I would honestly say like a new Tundra or a new Tacoma, and I mean for you coming from a full size truck to a mid size truck is like a big change, and that's kind of a whole different world than what you're in. So like it could definitely be a dream vehicle in my opinion. It's something completely different that you're not used to trying.
Oh yeah, just a whole new game. Because I mean, yeah, I've had smaller vehicles like for cars, but for a mid-sized truck, I've never had one. It's always been the full-size Silverados or the K5 Blazer.
As we're talking, I was actually on Toyota's website building myself a Tundra, and mine specced out, obviously MSRP, is 49,251, which honestly is not as much as I thought it was going to be.
That's doable.
Right. It's not cheap, but that's really not bad if I could find a dealer that wouldn't charge me a bunch of extra money.
Now, unlike me, where I just went down to the lower version of the Silverado Trail Boss, and after fully decked out, it was 62 MSRP.
Yeah, that is a lot of money.
Yeah, that's you're at, even if you have some down payment, you're still looking at that being a truck payment about $800 and up a month.
Yeah. Yeah, that's well mine even I think, after taxes and everything would be close to 60,000 anyways. So it's like gosh darn. But the thing is it's so hard for me to want a mid-sized truck now because like your mid-sized trucks are good and they can be used as a truck now for sure. I mean the Colorado's got what like 7,800 towing capacity,
77, yeah.
77. So it's like wow, that's pretty incredible for a mid-sized truck. My 96 GMC can only tow like 7,500 pounds or something. Granted technology is advanced, but at the same time most of these mid-sized trucks don't get any better gas mileage than a full size, and now they're a little bit less usable in the bed. But I mean, I don't use my truck as a truck every single day, so it's not the end of the world. I mean, you probably could say that I use my truck more as a commuter car than a truck, so that's where the midsize does come in. But it's just really hard to be like, yeah, I'll spend $60K on this midsize pickup truck when I could have gotten the full size for the same price. And you're sacrificing certain things to go either way, but I feel like usability in real life scenarios, your full size is going to end up being better. And it's like, God, do I go with the midsize? Do I go with the full size? But that's that's a pretty tough decision to think about now too.
Well, that's why the ZR2 really caught my attention, because even the ZR2 model, you can do 1,200 pounds payload capacity in the back of the bed, which is quite a bit. I mean, the work truck has a little bit more. I think it's like 14 or 15. And for a little mid-sized truck, that's about what my current 2013 Silverado can do in the back for a half ton. But also, they made the truck a little bit wider so you can fit your 4-foot wide pieces of plywood in back there, so you can still do it as a work truck and everything. But they made the tailgate go like halfway up. They have made like little slots for the cables to go into, so your longer items kind of pitch towards the back of the truck, and you can still have long items in there. And they gave more tie down straps, so you can still use it kind of like as a full size truck. I mean, not everything's going to fit in the bed like you can do now, but it's very adaptable to where you can still use it like that, which that's why it's really caught my attention, is I can still move a lot of stuff with it and still have long objects for like plywood and 2x4s and all that stuff coming out, having a home and everything to buy home improvement stuff, I guess you could say.
Well, and I guess part of it too, I mean, like because I had my Wrangler for 6 years, so I didn't have a pickup truck. And, now I'm advocating for pickup trucks. But I've got a 5x8 trailer, You know, you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's, wherever you go, and buy all that stuff and throw it in that trailer. And your truck's going to be able to obviously pull that 5x8 trailer because you're not going to be able to overload it more than your truck can handle anyways. So it's like, you know, do I really need the pickup truck sometimes? But I really think, I don't know, man. That's really hard to like decide. Like if I was going to buy another truck now, I don't know if I would go mid-size or full-size because I do like having that full-size truck. But just the one time we went on the trails, I was like, holy cow, this is a lot harder to navigate around these trails than, you know, my Jeep was. And my Jeep was big too.
Yeah, I think for the area that we live in, a lot of the trails we should probably have a mid-size vehicle. I mean, you go out west more and you're more in the desert and the mountains where the trails are a bit wider for
Right.
the full-size vehicle. It's like us, we got trees growing around. It's like they're mostly built for ATVs and UTVs, and now that this whole overlanding thing's getting really popular, it's starting to wide out a little bit. But I mean, I fold my mirrors and go in some spices. I'm still getting pinstripes on the side of my truck.
Right. So here's another question to add to your dream vehicle. Do you think technology has come too far in a point where not like you don't have a disconnect from the vehicle because obviously you're still driving it and everything, but like it has pushed you to the point that they make it you don't feel like you have your freedom on the road as much as you did with all these safety features that kick in and force you to do things?
So, doing a little bit of research on the ZR2 and everything, certain driving modes turn off certain things. So, like if you go to off-road mode and stuff like that, it turns off all the traction control settings and stuff like that. So, if you really wanted to and have some fun, like doing burnouts and stuff, you could put that on regular pace and still do it. I guess if that's what you're getting at, or
I think I mean like you're like on road stuff. So Kristen obviously wrecked her car, so we had a loaner car. We had a BMW for a month, and it was a 2019. It had all these safety features, and you had the option to turn them off. So I had to figure out how to turn them off. But the lane assist, the there was like 4 or 5 things that had to do with driving down the road straight. And yes, they're good in a day-to-day life, but like out here where it's just a small road and you're going around corners and you're driving 50 miles an hour, man, there's a bunch of times that like I had come up and somebody was riding a bicycle or somebody was in a tractor or they were mowing their lawn, and I would swerve to the middle so that I didn't get right on top of them or hit them, and the car would yank you back into the lane because it thought you were not paying attention and going out of your lane. And I was like, holy cow, this almost caused an accident that I was already aware of and attempting to avoid. And that really, that like kind of killed my want for some of the newer technology because it can't differentiate when you are actually intentionally crossing the lane or not. And I tried.
Try turning on your turn signal.
See, now that I didn't do.
It just might be one of those things that you have to tell the vehicle that you're actually going to move over. I mean, it's an extra step that may be annoying, but in the same sense, I would actually like that because then people start using their turn signals when they turn.
I mean, I guess that's a learning curve because you don't think about hitting your turn signal when you're just swerving out of the way of somebody. No. But I mean, so yeah, obviously in a perfect world that turn signal could work, but what happens if you're driving down the road and, you know, I'm just going into a super drastic situation here, and anybody listening is going to say, oh my God, why do you have to bring up something like this? But like a kid throws a ball into the road and runs out and stop paying attention. I'm not going to turn my turn signal on. That's a last minute swerve. And now,
see, technically the car's supposed to stop.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not on board for all these new safety features. Like I get the reason to have them, but I just, in my experience so far, which is just with a month long of driving it, and I wasn't happy with it. I wanted less technology than what I had in that car.
See, I'm all for the technology. I mean, some spots, some things could be annoying because then it's just something else that can go wrong. And it's just like, oh, now I got to fix this, or it's got to go to the dealership and get fixed because maybe the car won't run because that safety feature is not working properly. And that gets annoying too. And I completely understand that.
Yeah, that does get frustrating. But I mean, I think that there's definitely good things, like we talked about with the midsize truck now basically being a full size truck and payload capacity and all that stuff. So that's a plus because you can drive a smaller truck and do similar things that you used to do with a full size truck. But like I said, man, I don't know how I feel about all this technology, and I don't like. I'm probably a smaller population that doesn't enjoy this, but I hate that all these new vehicles have like a dang iPad in their center console as your radio. I like having the buttons and knobs to control everything. I hate having that touchscreen.
Yeah, I still like the analog because you know it actually works.
Right.
It's
And
all mechanical.
any vehicle now, well, I mean, there's probably some that don't, but like almost any vehicle comes standard with that touchscreen now. So I mean, I just built that Tundra, and then I went on here and built a Tacoma too. And I mean, both of them I chose the SR5, a lower level. It's not like a fancy one because I like cloth seats. I don't like all the extra, obviously, I just said, don't like all the extra technology. And it comes standard with that touchscreen radio. It's like, oh man, I want to go back just a little bit before everything was touchscreen.
So I noticed that too with the new Colorado that everything is integrated into their touchscreen. I mean, your climate controls and heated seats are still there, but they put the lights in there. Your interior, exterior lights is all through the screen. There's no more buttons on the left hand side. So I don't know how I feel about that, but what all the car manufacturers, I mean, this is my guess, but what all the car manufacturers are trying to go for that more futuristic look, where it's just going to be a plain dash. You're going to have your one screen where everything touches, and then your instrument cluster. That's even now going to LCD screens, so you can customize it how you want to look and everything else like that. It's going to be a very sleek look and one control center for everything.
Yeah, and I don't, like I said, I'm not 100% opposed to them advancing some of that stuff, but I'm just not really about that. I'd like to go back to analog.
Jake, it's 2022.
I'm still living in 2000, I think.
But yeah, I get it. I mean, it's stuff doesn't break as much then, and it's not a computer touchscreen that you're working. You can actually feel the buttons that you're pushing, and I completely get that. And that's why I like my truck still, is because everything, for the most part, is all analog.
I think part of it is a. I'm trying to word this. Not a generational gap or something, but like our grandparents didn't know how to use a computer, and they're like, "Ah, this. I need help with this. I can't use this." So, you and I grew up. If we worked on vehicles, working on things that didn't have a lot of electricity. I mean, they had electric. They had a lot of wires. They had a lot of. I mean, obviously they had sensors and etc. But they didn't
Seems
have
to run on some form of electricity.
but it didn't have as much technology now. So like Kristen's Jeep, for example, so 2019. If I were to like tear that thing apart, I would definitely screw something up because I don't know which wires I'm supposed to pull or not pull. I don't know what panels I can pull without making it mad and everything like that. But my truck right now, I know I could take apart and it wouldn't get mad at me because it's dumb. So it's like you and I just didn't have the experience growing up working on those or have the knowledge as much working on these newer ones. So maybe it's just a gap in knowledge for us. Like if we had a new one and we worked on it a couple times, maybe we would feel more comfortable taking one of those on the trail. That if something broke, you know, technology wise, electricity wise, we wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, this has to go to a shop. I can't handle this. Maybe we would be able to pull it apart and be like, oh yeah, it's just this wire's pinched here. We'll just splice this into another one and it'll be perfect.
Well, that's what they're going for too now, is making it to where you have to take it into the dealership to get worked on, especially with all the computer programming in. We took my mom's Equinox apart, and it's got the new timing system and stuff like that. And my dad had he is a mechanic, so he had a nice new scanner and everything. And you can change everything on the scanner for that thing. You just hit the button to rotate it and everything else like that. ridiculous. So you almost have to. They're almost making it to where you have to take it into the dealership to get worked on.
Right. And that's, I mean, I get it. They want control over their vehicles, but I don't know. I feel like as a consumer, we should have a right. And dude, I hate to keep going back to like old technology. That 1990 Toyota pickup that I had three old school manuals for it, and it taught you how to, take the motor apart down to the last bolt, and change your timing and do all this on that truck. And I was like, holy cow! Like this is a complete manual to rebuild this truck from the ground up if I had all the parts, and that's so cool that that used to be a thing that people had or could buy. Now, I don't think you could find a manual that goes in depth enough to even, pull apart your door. That's just like a YouTube or a forum guy that's done it and found the right way to do it. Or if you talk to an actual, mechanic of whatever vehicle you're working on.
Well, they have taken a couple of mechanical classes. There is a site for the dealerships that they go on to, and it tells you exactly how to take apart the door, how long it's going to take, and what procedure you have to do by removing what bolt at which time. But it's all dealership based. It's their own little cloud per se.
Right. It'll be interesting. Go ahead.
Sorry. they are out there, but it's just a lot different than going to you said, a bookstore or looking on Amazon and buying the actual paperback manual for the thing.
It'll be really interesting to see the way that the aftermarket modification world kind of starts turning, and the mechanical world, like repairs and stuff, how all that will change over the next 10 to 15 years with the changes in these vehicles and the procedures these dealers are actually letting happen now.
Well, they already are having that problem, especially with the new Tundra, with the adaptive cruise control and air damping system, because the new Tundra, the upper versions, you hit a certain miles per hour and a damper fan comes down to make the truck more aerodynamic, and it's in the lower bumper. So you put an aftermarket bumper on it for higher clearance and stuff like that. You're relocating that sensor that has to be at a certain angle and everything. So you have to be really in touch with the aftermarket companies or Toyota to figure out where that angle has to be, where you can place it, and everything else like that. Otherwise, the truck's going to go show you a check engine light of air damper control and everything else like that.
Well, and I've seen that actually with some of the other Tundras, newer than mine, that have like the motion sensors or the parking assists in the front. If you get a new aftermarket front bumper, you can't get the Amazon special in the trucks that have that, because it will show a check engine light, or it'll mess you up. It'll think that either you're too close to something, or the sensors are missing, because they're not integrated in that new bumper that you've put on. And I think a lot of vehicles are going to start having those similar issues. But even I don't think I showed you. I was showing my friend the other day at the station, but those new Tundras, the thing that I dislike the most about them is that front bumper is integrated into like the front fascia of the truck. So if you look at any of these companies or people on Instagram, YouTube that have been adding aftermarket bumpers to the 2022s, they have to take a saw and cut the plastic so that they have, so they can actually take this bumper off and not the whole front clip with it. And I was like, man, that's really stupid. You've integrated it completely, and it's extremely hard to modify that now. Like if I had one here and I needed the bumper changed, I couldn't just pull the bumper off and throw a new one on. I'd have to cut some pieces, otherwise it would look really messed up, and I'm not comfortable cutting into my own vehicle.
Got to be 100% dedicated.
There's no going back from that, and it's really kind of sad.
Just like I put the cab lights on my truck, I drilled into the top of the roof. I'm like,
no going back now.
Yep, measured like 30 times, drilled once.
All right, I think we've beat this dead horse pretty good. What's your guilty pleasure vehicle?
Well, I kind of said that would be like an ambulance.
Yeah, and like I said, I get it because it's just like a niche vehicle, but maybe it's just because I like them too that I'm like, that's not guilty pleasure. You shouldn't be embarrassed.
But if you wanted to be like completely odd and wanted a cool vehicle to take off road and modify other than an ambulance, I think mine would be an old 72 K5 Blazer.
Oh heck yeah, that'd be really cool.
A little 4-inch lift, 35s on it, lockers, the whole shebang. Roof rack so I can throw stuff on top. The back of the bed would be definitely where my sleeping quarters would be and everything else like that. Little tire swing out in the back. Uh, what else was I gonna say with it? The KC lights on the top of the roof rack. I just think it would be a cool vehicle out and maybe even get some vintage cooking wear too to go out there and do some of those trail runs that they do, the vintage trucks runs with the old camping stuff and everything. I think it just something I always want to do. Would be unique, different, cool little aspect of it.
That would be awesome. I was just looking at our messages. Like I thought I sent you an old vehicle, and it was I sent you that old 1957 Ford panel truck. How cool would that be to show up on trails with that thing? And like you said, have all vintage camping stuff. Like that just, oh my God, that'd be awesome to drive.
Now, what I'd probably do is throw like my motor I have in my truck now into it, another little like 2013 5.3, so it'd be a little bit more fuel efficient.
Well, so now we're getting back into our dream vehicle right there, Sean. Your dream could be a 72 with new features underneath it and a new motor, so you know it's super reliable.
Fish, I want my ZR2.
All right, are you ready for my guilty pleasure vehicle? I've got one guilty pleasure vehicle, and then two like just kind of weird niche ones that I would like to overland. So my guilty pleasure, and it's only really guilty to you, I think, because a lot of people like them, is the new Maverick. I don't know why I like this little truck so much. It's a unibody, small, built on the new Bronco Sport skate platform, but like, man, I love this truck. It's so cool to me.
So I sent you the thing for like that Alaskan overland thing
Yeah.
that you can fly up to Alaska, rent one of their trucks. They actually have a Ford Maverick.
Oh, no way. We should
Yes.
totally do that.
So there you go. You could try it out with it being decked out with the tent stuff and all the equipment, and especially the most like diverse terrain out there is like Alaska. So it'd be like the ultimate overlanding spot. So
That would be so cool. And I mean, they look actually very nice when they're done up. I've seen a lot of them that, like, I think the biggest tire you can put on them right now is a 32-inch tire. So it's not huge, but for that truck, it's pretty big. And you can get like the FX4. I think they're coming out with a Tremor package for that truck now. So I mean, they're offering the 4x4 options, and they also you can get them from factory with roof racks and rooftop tents, which is like the mid-size like your Colorado ZR2s are doing, which is crazy because this is not inherently an off-road truck, but they're like, yeah, go ahead, take this out in adventures.
well, I mean, like they showed some vehicles. They just like, hey, you can take any vehicle out. It just depends on what trails you take.
Yeah, it's very true. My other two that I think are very weird wants to like overland is the Isuzu Via-Cross. Like
What
that's
the heck is that?
You've never seen those? Oh my gosh,
No.
let me get you a picture and send it to you in the chat here so you can see what this is. They are like the weirdest vehicles that came out in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And they were built like solely with purpose of off-roading. And they're such a, like, you can find them for pretty cheap now to buy, which is crazy to me because it is like a very niche vehicle. But like I've never been in one, and I've only seen one like, you know, on the street. I've never been up close, and it's just, I would love to have one. I think they're so cool. They had a bunch of technology and sensors on all their suspension to like tell you, I think it said there was like 12 or 15 sensors to sense any kind of wheel spin, anything like that. Like they 100% knew where to send traction to. They were ahead of their time, honestly, and they just never really caught on, which again is a shame, but I think they're the coolest freaking little cars ever.
Coming from a guy that doesn't like technology.
I know it's old technology. Okay. Um, but that would be one of them. Just to have the other one, I would say is a Baja bug, like the old school Baja bugs that they use in Baja. I think that would be really cool to actually drive around. I mean, obviously you couldn't camp in it; you'd have to bring like a tent or something. But man, that would be really cool to just drive around. I see them at car shows and stuff all the time too, and people have like all the roof racks and everything on them, and they're camping shit. And that would just be that would just be an interesting thing to drive around for a while.
That thing kind of looks. I just got your picture. Thing kind of looks like a newer vehicle almost too.
Yeah, and I think they stopped making them in like 2001 or two. They're really
Such a little,
weird.
such a small wheelbase too. It'd be actually really good.
Yeah, and dude, there's like such a cult following of these vehicles. Like people love these things when they get their hands on them.
That looks weird.
It kind of looks like an old version of a Pontiac Aztec, doesn't it? Or like a different,
Yeah.
more rounded version of one.
Yeah, smaller one, and that was like ahead of time because those things had the tents built into the back of them.
I know people, dude. Those are starting to become really popular for like camping and overlanding now. That is a guilty pleasure vehicle for some. Like, who? Why would you take that thing out? That thing's so ugly.
It was an early version of an Equinox.
Yeah, I think people really like him now too because of Walter White. That's what he drove around in that show.
No. uh, so if those are your couple vehicles, what would be your electric vehicle if the infrastructure got better?
Man, oh, there's so many out there now that it's kind of hard to choose. But I think I would still go with the Rivian. To be honest with you, I just really like the styling of their vehicles, and I don't know if I'd go with. I mean, the truck is obviously out right now. You can actually buy the truck. I don't know if the SUV is in production or not, but I really like their SUV too. And I think what drew me to them more than anybody else too is the fact that they actually planned on off-roading with those. Like that was a big goal in mind for them. And granted, it's still an electric truck. It doesn't have an amazing battery life, but they took it on the entire. I think they did the whole Trans-American Trail from the East Coast to the West Coast. They have a video you can watch on Motor Trend of them doing that, and that was right there sold me. I was like, okay, I definitely want one of these trucks now.
How far off the path did they have to go to find a charging station, or did they bring a generator?
Shoot, I don't remember. I think they would stop at some of the areas that had it, but in all these vehicles now, the GPS navigation will show you like, hey, you've got 200 miles. Here's 4 charging stations that will.
Technology.
Yeah, a technology. I'm not for it. But I think. I don't know. It's so hard because I don't want to be a naysayer and be like, no, electric vehicle bad. I've already been the one that says technology bad. Yeah, I'm a darn caveman basically. But like, you watch people that have done real world tests with these vehicles now, and they kind of show you that it's not. You can't use them reliably for long travels. Yeah, they work really good for day to day. Like me going to work, I could plug in my truck at work when I'm there. I can plug in my truck at home. So essentially, I won't ever have to stop at a gas station for my daily life, which I guess most people are only worried about their daily life. But an actual road trip or an off-road trip, they're not feasible to use yet, I don't think.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about in our last camping trip when we were on the campfire. And we should just put up a microphone there and set it up as a podcast.
It would have
But
been perfect.
like we were saying, I mean, I have nothing against the electric vehicles. Like I know it's what everything's going towards. It just the problem I have is like same as you is the infrastructure is not there. Day to day commute for work or something, it's great. But like we were saying, it's like if you're taking a road trip and you find a gas station and there's okay, say there's like 10 bays like there is now, and you have a car, electric car there, and it's like still has a quick charge setup that only takes 15 to 20 minutes. It's like okay, but then there starts to become a line because more and more people start having these vehicles. So then you're sitting there for uh half hour to hour to maybe an hour and a half until it's your turn to get up and charge your vehicle, and then you're sitting there for your waiting for your vehicle to charge.
And I don't have you. Do you watch the Fastlane Truck on YouTube?
Once in a while.
So they just had a series called the Northern Lightning or Northern Lights, whatever it was. I don't know. But they took a Ford Lightning, they got a camper shell to put into it, and they traveled from somewhere in California, I think it was, and drove all the way up to Dead Horse, Alaska. So they wanted to see, like, hey, we're going to go to the most remote place, excuse me, and see how it handles a electric vehicle. God, I think I'm dying or something. I can't clear my throat enough.
Corona.
Probably, or it's monkeypox now. But so they took this truck, and from like the California portion to where they were going to ferry the truck, it was fine. It did its job. There was charging spots. They stopped at campsites that had electric, and they were able to hook up and charge it to the point that they were able to keep going. And they did the real world numbers. Obviously, with a camper shell, you lose a lot of aerodynamics, and like yours and my truck would drop to like 7 miles per gallon. They dropped to, it was like 1.8 miles per kilowatt or something like that, and it was just horrendous, man. And granted, it was still cheaper than gas. It wasn't cheaper by a long shot. I think somebody calculated in the comments, so it could be wrong, and I don't remember the exact number, but it was like the gas that it took them was like $200, and the kilowatt hour, the price for your electricity, ended up being like $150. It's like, man, you save $50, which is okay. It's a decent amount of money. You can go out for dinner or something, but like $50 to me is not worth the extra, probably 4 hours it took them on that trip. So, and then when they got into Alaska, they luckily brought with them another F-150, that Power Boost, which is a hybrid. So it has, I think it's got an electric motor, but it can also be used the same way that the Lightning could be used to like power your home, use it as a generator, etc. And they charged the Lightning off of the Power Boost to keep it going. So now you're using gas to use your electric vehicle,
So here's the thing. That before they started all this electric car stuff, they started with like the Power Boost, like the hybrid. So now with the technology of the batteries, that you have your I guess your battery platform or your unibody that fits underneath your floorboards and everything, and you still have your suspension set up and everything else like that. Why don't you still keep your motor and throw electric generator on there? So then, yes, you still have your 300 miles per your battery pack, but you still have like your 5.3 or your 3 something Ecotech. I'm not really familiar with Fords, but you have that your hybrid system that can still, while you're driving, still re-energize your battery. You're charging. I mean, it won't be exactly the same, but say okay, it's like 300 miles on the battery. I mean, you still won't get the full range of your gas motor like it used to be, but you can still charge your battery and still keep driving. So that can go up to say 600-700 miles with the new technology on that type of system. Why does it have to go straight from gasoline to battery? Why can't we put both of them together? I mean, the vehicle might weigh a little bit more, but beef up your suspension. I mean, I think it'd be an actually really good idea.
Right. I think that we're trying too hard too quickly to get off fossil fuels, and we're really not even getting off fossil fuels in the grand scheme of things. I get that we're, the general population is using electric now, and you have to have coal to run to make electricity at the time, but like the thing that I do understand about them setting these time limits, if you look back in the 70s during the gas crisis, the government came out and said the same thing, like, hey, your vehicles have to get to I think it was like 40 or 50 mile per gallon average by this date. They had like 5 years or something like that to get to this miles per gallon limit that the government had set. And if you see the change, they were jumping up in miles per gallon. They didn't get up to 50, but they were getting up to like, 20, the things like that we were in the 90s, 15 to 20 was a good average instead of, we were getting 5 to 7. And they were on the upward trend. And then the government said, oh, we're just kidding. You don't need to do that anymore. And then if you look, the mile per gallon kind of plateaued. stopped being important again.
Oh, that's
So
all on which party's in the White House with the EPA and stuff like that too.
right, but what I'm saying is you almost again, I'm not a complete supporter of electric. I don't think it works yet. There's a lot that needs to be done, but you almost need those standards set to force these companies to actually be like, oh, okay, let's, we're going to save the people money. We're going to follow what the government wants instead of just saying like, yeah, we're going to build whatever we want and mile per gallon is an afterthought or, this isn't important to us right now. So it forces the technology to advance. Do I think the technology will be advanced to the point that it needs to by the time that these deadlines are set? Absolutely not. Do I think it'll be closer? Yeah, but I don't think we'll be to the point where we can rely on electric vehicles solely yet. I think that's still 20 years down the road.
The only reason this big push is going on is right now because our current, not going to say names, administration has big money into lithium mines.
Yeah, I think that, I don't really know, to be honest with you. I just think that there's no reason. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole yet, but I don't think that there's a reason for us to force out internal combustion yet. I just don't. And I don't know why electricity is the way we're going. There's so many other options I feel like they could do, and there's not enough money being poured into those. So everybody that goes to a wayside. But like Formula One, the FIA is looking into alternative fuels and they want to test it out on vehicles eventually in the races. And that, I think, is very good news for internal combustion engines, because if they succeed in a good carbon neutral fuel, that may end up coming to the general population, and then electric vehicles may fall to the wayside. So we still get the vroom vroom noises and that cool feel of an internal combustion engine, and that may be a better alternative to gasoline than electric is. But I don't know. Who knows?
Hydrogen is probably the most carbon neutral alternate fuel type out there that I know of, that I can think of actually.
And there was that company that was trying to do an off-road truck on hydrogen. I don't remember what it was. I know you I remember you showing me. I just don't remember what the name of them were anymore.
Yeah, they have a big lawsuit against them. So.
Okay, well, we just won't even mention them then. Never mind. Forget I even said anything.
Because they weren't actually doing what they said they were doing. So.
Okay, well, never mind then. Everybody ignore that last 5 minutes of talking.
But yeah, for a long time, that was like the biggest thing was hydrogen. But anyways, we're way off the rabbit hole here on what vehicles we wanted.
Sean, what electric vehicle would you purchase?
So I'm actually in between two of them. I'd have to say either the Ford Lightning. Yes, I'd be a Ford guy on that point. Picking a Ford. But otherwise, the Hummer EV kind of looks cool. And you get to be a big guy in the Hummer.
I totally.
The Crabwalk just looks cool.
I always forget about those things. They actually look pretty neat. They're good styling. I do like that.
A lot of the Colorado technology came from the Hummer, though, actually.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the H3s, the older Hummers that they made, I think they shared the same platform as the Colorado and had the same engine in it, too.
I'm not sure. I didn't pay too much attention on that one.
I just remember they both had that 5-cylinder engine at one point as an option, and like I said, I think that like the smaller Hummer had the same body on frame as the Colorado, and I'm assuming that the new one they're probably gonna. I mean, the new one's huge though, isn't it? It's like the size. Yeah, it's on the truck platform or something.
Yep, on the HD truck platform.
Oh, that's a little bit nicer then.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really looked into them, but I just, for what I've seen and everything, like, yeah, why not? I mean, the Riviera is pretty cool too, and like the little like bed compartments that you can have like as a drawer and everything. I don't know. I'm not that into it because the infrastructure is not there.
Yeah, I think I'll be sticking away from that for a while.
I hear a puppy.
Yeah, they all just got up. I was just love attacked. I'm still being love attacked. But yes, I think I don't think we're ready for electric vehicles yet. I really don't. I think it's going to take some time.
But all right, well, I think that concludes today's episode.
All right. Well, I hope that we gave you some food for thought, and maybe I've turned more people onto the Isuzu V-Cross. Everybody go look those up and make the market jump super high so all the supporters and cult following get really mad.
This truck you used to buy for $2,000, now it's up to $6,000. I know what I have.
Well, we will see you next Friday. Go ahead and follow all our social medias, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and have a good day.
As always, our podcast is on all your favorite podcast views, Apple iPod, Spotify, and Google. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.